My name is Mitch McPherson. I'm 32 years of age and I live here in Hobart, Tasmania. I've been married for 4 years and recently we just had our first child, little Maya. I'm a full-time mental health advocate and I'm fortunate enough to travel our country speaking about my lived experience and spreading the message that it's okay to not be okay. From 2000 to 2003 I went to an all-boys school in Hobart, Tasmania. My main focus across that 4 years and even the next 2 years at college was sport. Loved my sport. Loved associating and hanging out with my mates. So much so that was my focus throughout school. And when I finished college in 2005, I was a pretty lost soul, not knowing what it was that I wanted to do next with my career. I had friends and people around me heading off to apprenticeships, traineeships, and even university, but me, I was pretty lost and didn't have any idea what it was next for me. I worked in the fruit and veg department at wh&s for a couple of years on a casual basis. I then got a traineeship in signwriting. And eventually I was fortunate enough to get a job as a first-year apprentice with a glazing business down here in Hobart. Working as a glazier was a lot of fun. I built some great friendships and relationships that even to this day I'm still really close with. I learned a lot of great life skills, organisational skills. I was pretty handy on the tools and I was a real leader within our business. I led the business and looked after it when my boss would take leave or go on holidays with his family. I would often work throughout the whole year and we'd take our holidays over the Christmas period. For me, life back then, having time away from work was fun. I'd play sport, time in the sun, have a few beers, spend time with my family and in particular my girlfriend. It was 2013, had a great time over the Christmas period and then we entered 2014. I went back to work on the 14th of Jan and I had a really cruisy day. There wasn't much in the calendar and there wasn't much for me to do on the tools. I wrapped up that day and I headed home and I lived with my dad in a suburb called Tranmere. I was home and I was having a conversation with my girlfriend at the time as to what we were going to have for dinner. There was a commotion upstairs. I went upstairs to see my dad in a state that I've never ever seen before, and he was letting us know that my mum had called him to let all of us know that she'd arrived at her place 5 minutes up the road from where we lived, and she'd found my little brother where he'd suicided and taken his own life. My little brother was my best friend, someone who I spent more time with than anyone. We'd play backyard cricket, footy, we'd wrestle, I'd pick him up, drop him off, transfer him money. There was a 7-year gap between us, but we were extremely close as two brothers growing up in the world. To lose my little brother left me with an enormous amount of emotions that I'd never experienced before: grief, sadness, and in particular guilt. I really felt responsible that I wasn't there for him to have those conversations, that I now know he was obviously struggling and going through a difficult time. Over time though, I've learned it's not my fault and it's never anyone else's fault when somebody takes their own life. However, what I'm all about now is looking out for the signs and remembering that we're all going to go through hardship, we're all going to have rough and tough days. And I would certainly give anything in that last couple of weeks of my little brother's life to involve myself in his life a lot more and to ask him those questions, are you okay? And to put my arm around him, hug him, spend more time with him and assuring him that talking about his emotions and his feelings is going to get him through that difficult period. After losing Ty, I went back to work as a glazer and I was fortunate to have some great colleagues that enjoyed the same things in life as me, and they really helped me through that difficult period. After getting through those first initial stages of grief, I decided that I wanted to do more about raising awareness when it comes to mental health. I created the sticker, the Speak Up Stay Chatty logo that you see behind me. Speak Up Stay Chatty with a little pair of shorts. My little brother loved wearing footy shorts and obviously his name Ty is incorporated into the logo. We got rid of a few thousand car stickers in the first few months. I set up some social media and basically just started sharing my story through that social media and some public speaking, talking about signs I'd missed in my little brother. And better educating people on, telling them that it's okay to get help and where the services are for them to become available. I decided to set it up as a charity, started to do more public speaking, and eventually partnered Stay Chatty with Relationships Australia Tasmania and was fortunate enough to get a full-time role with Relationships Australia Tas, partnering with them, growing our organisation, creating programs. We now have an amazing team that work every day to create awareness and better educate people around mental health. We have a school program, a sports program, community and workplace initiatives, fundraising all over the state of Tasmania. And I'm fortunate enough to jump on planes and travel the country speaking, sharing my story, all in a bid to break down the stigma, all in a bid to encourage people to have conversations about mental health, to not be ignorant, to know that 1 in 5 will experience a mental health issue in their lifetime. From my perspective, working 7 years in the glazing industry, mental health was certainly something that was very taboo and not a lot of people wanted to talk about it. From what I've learnt now around mental health, conversations are imperative in terms of everyday life. And I think back to many moments I had with the different and various amount of blokes and people that I came in contact with, whether I worked with every day or ran into on site or at a house that I was working at. And reflecting on that, I see so many days and so many missed opportunities where I didn't sit down and ask them, are you okay? That simple question that is so easy to ask. Many days I rocked up to work and didn't feel 100% and didn't get asked how I was travelling. Many days I got to work and saw someone that was off their game and I failed to ask them as well how they're travelling. And from what I've learnt over my time as a mental health advocate, having those conversations can be life-changing, game-changing, and can absolutely put someone in the right stead to getting back on their feet to 100%. It is very taboo to talk about mental health in the trade industry, but every day I love working with, in particular, males in male-dominated workforces, breaking down that stigma, reminding them that you don't have to be the big tough guy that we had 200 years ago. It's okay to feel, it's okay to struggle, and it's okay to have difficult days, but getting help, seeking help for it, and having conversations about your mental health is absolutely the best thing that you can do. Looking out for signs in our workmates and people around us is something that is so important. I'm really big on a term that I've come up with called 1%ers. 1%ers for me was when I played footy, the tackle, shepherd, block, all those things for your teammates. But these days, I believe in looking for the 1%ers in those around you. If someone goes past you and they're just off their game, they don't have their morning coffee that they usually would, they didn't smile at you like they usually would or have a laugh, it's really important that you take a couple of moments of your day to find out what's going on in their life. Quite often we don't ask that question because we're worried about what the answer will be, but any training I've done around mental health will suggest that you don't have to be a professional to ask that question, and you do not have to have the answers for that person. Just simply using your ears, sitting with them in their time of need, in their time of vulnerability, listening, letting it soak in, and then encouraging them to get some professional support is the best thing that you can do in that instance. If you notice signs that someone around you is having an off day or going through a difficult time, it is really important that you follow up and that you ask simple questions to see what's happening in their life. I'm a proud Are You OK ambassador, and Are You OK have adopted a model called ALEC. It stands for Ask, Listen, Encourage Action and Check In. Asking is so important, knowing that you don't have to have the answers. Listening is as simple as that, using your ears, using great eye contact and just showing that you care in that moment. Encouraging action, encouraging them to get some professional support for the issues that are getting them down, if that's a GP, as local service in your area. And check in, so important. Don't leave it at that. Make sure in the coming weeks, hours, months, days that you're continuing to check in to encourage that action and to make sure that they've got the support that they need. Never ever walk away from the opportunity to ask someone, are they okay? Because all you have to remember is you do not have to have the answers, you just have to have that time to sit with them and be in that moment. If you need help and you're going through a difficult period, it's important that you reach out to the services that are available to you. Of course, your friends and your family are great people that we encourage you to turn to open up and tell them that you're going through a difficult period. But your GP is a great place to go to get a mental health plan. Lifeline, 13, 11, 14, Beyond Blue, Headspace, there's many national organisations that you can report to in person, in telephone and online. But what I will say is it's important every day that we learn more of the local services in our area. Find people that you can trust, establish strong relationships so that you can turn to them at any moment in your life to say, hey, things aren't going well for me. Especially in the trade industry, there are a lot of people that you work with that have a lot of things in common with you. So talk about your mental health. Talk about what might be making you happy, but also talk about what might get you down. Have those conversations with each other. It will build a really solid foundation for you when you might need that really life-changing or life-saving conversation. But the other thing I want everyone to remember is to be on the lookout. I spoke about 1%ers earlier. It's imperative that we keep our radar up and we keep looking out for people in our lives that we work with, that are in our family, that are our friendship and our sporting group, and to monitor that and to reach out to them if they're going through a difficult time. The one reason I'm really passionate about that is this, the last moment I ever shared with my little brother. It was the night before he passed away. I'll never forget going into his room to say goodnight to him and the way he looked at me and really quietly mumbled the word night. He was a million miles off himself. I pulled his door shutter, went to bed, and I never ever saw him again. He was pale-faced, he had tears in his eyes, and he was someone laying there with an enormous amount of issues going on in his life. But my ignorance and my lack of knowledge prevented me from going in and giving him that hug that he needed, wrapping my arm around him and assuring him that if he speaks to me, things will totally feel better tomorrow. So I urge you to take that opportunity. If you get the chance to sit with someone, or if you get the chance to open up yourself, I urge you to do that. Have conversations, look out for each other, listen, show that you care, and it will make one hell of a difference moving forward.